The stars had watched humanity for a very long time. 300 years, to be exact. 300 years of observation, analysis, and careful study. The Galactic Union had seen humanity crawl out of their blue planet, spread to their moon, then Mars, then the outer colonies. They had watched humans fight each other, make peace, fight again, and somehow survive every disaster they created. Now, the Union had decided it was time to make contact. The orbital station Horizon floated silently above Earth. It was humanity's largest structure in space, a spinning wheel of metal and glass that housed 50,000 people. On this day, it would host the most important meeting in human history. Admiral Park Tae-ho stood at the window of the main conference chamber. He was 62 years old, with gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen too many battles. Behind him, the Earth rotated slowly, its blue oceans and green lands glowing in the sunlight. He had spent his entire life protecting that planet. He was not about to stop now. The door opened, and Dr. Yuna Kang entered. She was younger than Tae-ho, maybe 40, with sharp features and an even sharper mind. She carried a tablet filled with years of research on alien civilizations. Everything humanity knew about the Galactic Union was stored in that device. "They will arrive in 10 minutes, Yuna said. "Are you ready?" Tae-ho did not turn from the window. "I have been ready for 30 years. General Kim Do-hyun was the last to enter. He was a large man with broad shoulders and a face that rarely smiled. He commanded the entire United Earth Defense Fleet. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. If this meeting went badly, he would be the one to give the order to fight. "The delegation ship has docked," Do-hyun reported. 5 of them. All Valen. The Valen were the oldest species in the Galactic Union. They were tall, almost 3 meters, with silver skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on their faces. They moved with the slow confidence of beings who had never known defeat. For 10,000 years, they had ruled the galaxy. Every species they encountered had joined the Union. Every single one. The conference room doors slid open, and the Valen entered. High Emissary Rova led the group. She was ancient even by Valen standards, her silver skin marked with patterns that showed her rank and achievements. She looked at the 3 humans with something that might have been curiosity or might have been pity. It was hard to tell with alien faces. "Admiral Park Tae-ho," Rova said. Her voice was musical, translated by a small device on her collar. "We have waited long to meet your kind." Tae-ho gave a small bow of his head. "High Emissary, welcome to Horizon Station." The 2 groups sat across from each other at a long table. The Valen moved with perfect grace. The humans watched them carefully, studying every gesture, every expression. Rova placed a small crystal on the table. It glowed with soft blue light, and holographic text appeared in the air above it. "This is our offer to humanity, the Treaty of Ascension. Every species in the Galactic Union has signed this document. It grants membership, protection, and access to technology far beyond your current capabilities." Yuna picked up her tablet and began reading the translated text. Her face remained calm, but Tae-ho noticed her fingers tightening on the device. "In exchange," Rova continued, "humanity will accept guidance from the Union Council. Your military forces will be reduced and placed under Union command. Your colonies will be administered by Union governors until you have proven your ability to govern peacefully, and your leaders will report to the High Council on all matters of importance." The room fell silent. Tae-ho had expected something like this. The intelligence reports, the intercepted communications, the stories from traders at the edge of known space, they all pointed to the same truth. The Galactic Union did not have members. It had subjects. "High Emissary," Yuna said slowly. "This treaty would remove our ability to govern ourselves." Rova tilted her head. "You would be governed better. Your species is young. You have only been in space for 3 centuries. The Valen have walked among the stars for 10,000 years. We know what is best. And if we disagree?" Do-hyun asked. His voice was flat, dangerous. Rova's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "No species has ever disagreed. The logic is clear. You are small. We are vast. You are weak. We are strong. Resistance would be meaningless. Tejo stood up. He moved slowly, deliberately, placing his hands flat on the table. The Valen delegation shifted slightly, unused to such direct confrontation. "Let me tell you something about humans," Tejo said. "We have fought each other for thousands of years. We have destroyed cities, burned nations, and nearly ended our own existence more times than I can count. We are violent. We are chaotic. We are everything you think is wrong with a species." He leaned forward. "But we have never, in all our history, accepted slavery. Not from kings, not from emperors, not from anyone, and we will not accept it from you." Rova stood as well, her tall form towering over the human admiral. "You do not understand what you are refusing. The Union has 100,000 ships. You have perhaps 1,000. We have weapons that could turn your planet to glass. We have technologies you cannot imagine. Then use them," Tejo said quietly. "Come to our system with your 100,000 ships. Land your armies on our world, and see what happens when humans fight for their home." The silence stretched for a long moment. Yuna stood and closed the treaty document on the crystal. She slid it back across the table to the Valen delegation. "Humanity's answer is no." Rova stared at her, then at Tejo, then at Do-hyun. Her 4 eyes were wide with something the humans had never seen on a Valen face before. It took a moment for Yuna to identify it. It was fear. "You have made a terrible mistake," Rova whispered. "The Council will not accept this. They will come for you." Tejo smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Then tell your Council to bring their best. Tell them that Earth remembers how to fight. Tell them that we have been preparing for this moment since we first saw your ships watching us from the dark." He walked to the door and opened it, gesturing for the Valen to leave. "Tell them that humanity said no, and we meant it." The Valen delegation left without another word. Their ship detached from the station and disappeared into the void, carrying news that would shake the entire galaxy. In the conference room, Yuna turned to Tejo. "They will come. You know that." "Yes," Tejo agreed. "They will." Do-hyun was already on his communicator, issuing orders to the fleet. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of humanity's future. "Activate Protocol Omega. We are now at war." The news traveled faster than light itself. Within hours of the Valen delegation's departure, every corner of the galaxy knew what had happened. A species called humanity, from a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system, had done the impossible. They had said no to the Galactic Union. On Sereth Prime, the capital world of the Union, the High Council gathered in their ancient chamber. The room was built 10,000 years ago, carved from a single mountain of black stone. Its walls were decorated with the symbols of every species that had joined the Union. There were thousands of them, stretching from floor to ceiling, each one representing a civilization that had accepted Union rule. Councillor Bren was the first to speak. He was a Neth, an aquatic species with blue-green skin and webbed hands. The Neth had joined the Union 8,000 years ago, and Bren was the oldest member of the Council. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had never seen anything like this. "This is unacceptable," Bren said, his voice bubbling with anger. "The humans are a Class 4 civilization. They have no interstellar alliances. Their fleet is nothing compared to ours. How dare they refuse?" High Emissary Rova stood before the Council, her silver skin pale with shame. She had failed in her mission. In 10,000 years of Valen diplomacy, no emissary had ever returned with a rejection. She was the first. "They were not afraid," Rova reported. "I showed them our power. I explained the consequences. But their admiral, Park Tejo, he looked at me like I was the one who should be afraid." Warlord Keth laughed from his seat at the far end of the chamber. He was Drava, a species of warriors who had once resisted the Union for 200 years, before finally submitting. The Drava were large, muscular beings with thick gray skin and 4 arms. They were the Union soldiers now. But Keth had never forgotten what it felt like to fight for freedom. "I told you," Keth said. "I told all of you. The humans are different. 20 years ago, when we tested their borders, they did not run. They fought back. They destroyed 3 of our scout ships with technology we had never seen before. Kinetic weapons. simple metal moving at incredible speed. No shields, no energy beams, just pure physical force. Bren waved his webbed hand dismissively. That was a minor skirmish. This is different. We will send a fleet. 100 ships, perhaps 200. We will show them the true power of the Union, and they will kneel. Will they? Rova asked quietly. I saw their eyes, Counselor. These are not beings who kneel. The Council debated for hours. But the outcome was never in doubt. The Galactic Union could not allow defiance. If humanity refused and survived, other species might start to question Union rule. The delicate balance of power that had held the galaxy together for 10,000 years would collapse. A fleet was authorized. 300 capital ships, drawn from a dozen species, would travel to Earth's solar system. They would give humanity one final chance to surrender. If the humans refused again, the fleet would destroy them. Far across the galaxy, on the planet Earth, a very different kind of meeting was taking place. President Choi Mirai stood on the steps of the Global Unity Parliament, facing a crowd of 1 million people. Behind her, the flags of every nation on Earth flew together, united for the first time in human history. Above them all was a new flag, one that had been designed just months ago, the flag of United Earth, showing a blue planet surrounded by stars. Mirai was 50 years old, the daughter of farmers who had worked the same land for generations. She had risen through politics, not through family connections or wealth, but through sheer determination and an unshakable belief in human potential. Now, she faced the greatest challenge any human leader had ever encountered. Citizens of Earth, she began, her voice carried by speakers to every corner of the planet. You have heard the news. The Galactic Union came to us with an offer. They called it cooperation. They called it protection. But we read their treaty, and we saw it for what it truly was. She paused, letting her words sink in. They wanted us to give up our armies. They wanted to control our colonies. They wanted to place their governors over our people and their council over our leaders. They did not offer us partnership. They offered us chains. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. Admiral Park Tae-ho, speaking for all of humanity, gave them our answer. He said no. And I stand before you today to tell you that I support that answer with every fiber of my being. The crowd erupted in cheers that shook the ground. Behind the scenes, the mood was far more serious. In a secure bunker beneath the Parliament building, General Kim Do-hyun briefed the military commanders of United Earth. Protocol Omega is now active, Do-hyun said, pointing to a holographic map of the solar system. We have 18 months, maybe less, before their fleet arrives. In that time, we need to triple our ship production, complete the orbital defense grid, and train 50,000 new pilots. Admiral Tae-ho studied the map. What about the asteroid belt shipyards? Can they be expanded? Already in progress, a younger officer reported. Her name was Lieutenant Hana Bay, one of the brightest tactical minds in the fleet. We are converting mining stations into construction facilities. The Eclipse-class destroyers can be built in 3 months each. We should have 200 ready before contact. 200 against 300, another commander muttered. Those are not good odds. The Union expects us to fight like they do, Tae-ho said. Ship against ship, formation against formation. They have been fighting the same way for 10,000 years. But we will not fight like them. He brought up a new display showing weapon systems, drone designs, and tactical programs. We will fight like humans. We will use every dirty trick we have learned in 5,000 years of warfare. We will mine their approach routes. We will use decoys and ambushes. We will turn our weakness into strength. Dr. Yuna Kang entered the bunker with news of her own. I have made contact with the Veen nomads, she said. They are interested in talking. So are the Moth Collective and the Drava rebels who escaped Union control 50 years ago. Do-hyun frowned. Can they be trusted? They hate the Union more than they fear it. Yuna replied. That is enough for now. In the months that followed, Earth transformed. Factories that had built cars now built weapons. Universities that had studied theory now studied alien technology. Every resource, every mind, every hand was dedicated to one single purpose: survival. Across the solar system, Hidden from Union sensors, humanity prepared its defenses. They knew the enemy was coming. They knew the odds were against them, but for the first time in history, humanity was truly united. And united, they were something the galaxy had never seen before. 6 months passed like a single heartbeat. Earth had never moved so fast, worked so hard, or sacrificed so much. Every day brought new ships, new weapons, and new soldiers ready to fight for their home. Deep in the asteroid belt, hidden among millions of rocks floating in the darkness of space, Commander Lee Sun-woo stood on the bridge of his new ship. The Defiance was an Eclipse-class destroyer, one of 200 that had rolled out of the hidden shipyards in record time. It was not beautiful. It was not elegant. It was a weapon designed for one purpose: to destroy anything that threatened humanity. Final systems check complete. Lieutenant Hanabe reported from her station. All weapons online, shield matrix at full power. We are ready, Commander. Sun-woo nodded slowly. He was 45 years old. A veteran of the border skirmishes that had tested humanity's resolve 2 decades ago. He remembered the first time he had seen an alien warship up close. Remembered the fear that had gripped his heart. That fear was gone now, replaced by something harder and colder. Take us out, he ordered. Join the formation with the rest of the fleet. The Defiance moved through the asteroid field, its engines glowing blue in the darkness. Around it, hundreds of other ships were doing the same, emerging from their hiding places like wolves waking from a long sleep. The sight was magnificent and terrifying at the same time. On Earth, the work continued without pause. In a massive underground facility in the mountains, scientists worked on projects that had been considered impossible just a year ago. Dr. Yuna Kang walked through the laboratories, checking on progress and pushing everyone to move faster. The drone program is ahead of schedule, a young scientist reported, showing her a small flying machine no bigger than a bird. Each carrier can deploy 10,000 of these. They are cheap, fast, and expendable. What about the minefields? Yuna asked. Deployed throughout the outer system. Over 50,000 devices, hidden in debris fields and asteroid clusters. The Union fleet will not see them until it is too late. Yuna allowed herself a small smile. The Union thought they were coming to fight a primitive species. They had no idea what they were walking into. Far from Earth, in a region of space controlled by no government, Dr. Yuna conducted another kind of work. Her shuttle landed on a station that belonged to the Ven, a nomadic species that had wandered the galaxy for thousands of years. They had never joined the Union, preferring their freedom to Union protection. This made them poor and isolated, but also independent. The Venhai mother received Yuna in a chamber decorated with artifacts from 100 worlds. She was old, her insect-like body covered with marks of age and experience. 2 antennae rose from her head, constantly moving as she studied her human visitor. You ask much, the High Mother said through a translator. You ask us to fight against the most powerful force in the galaxy. For what? For humans we have never met? For a cause that is not ours? Yuna bowed her head respectfully. I ask you to fight for something you already believe in. Freedom. The right to live as you choose. To go where you wish. To answer to no one but yourselves. We already have that freedom, do you? Yuna asked softly. The Union tolerates you because you are small and scattered. But what happens when they finish with us? What happens when they decide that nomads are a problem that needs to be solved? The High Mother's antenna stopped moving. She was silent for a long moment. You are clever, human. You speak to our fears. I speak the truth. Today it is Earth. Tomorrow it could be your ships, your people, your children. The Union does not share power. They take it, and eventually, they will take everything. The negotiation lasted 3 days. In the end, the Veen agreed to provide supplies and safe harbors for human ships. They would not fight directly, not yet, but they would help in other ways. It was a small victory, but it was followed by others. The Moth Collective, a species of scientists who had been forced to surrender their research to the Union, agreed to share technology secrets. The Drava rebels, warriors who had escaped Union control and lived in hiding, agreed to train human soldiers in alien combat techniques. One by one, The forgotten and oppressed species of the galaxy began to answer humanity's call. On Seraph Prime, the High Council received reports of these meetings with growing alarm. They are building alliances, Counselor Bren said, his voice tight with anger. Species we have ignored for centuries are now talking to the humans. How is this possible? Warlord Keth kept his face neutral. But inside he felt something he had not felt in decades. Hope. The humans were doing what no species had done before. They were fighting back not just with weapons, but with ideas. The fleet is almost ready, another counselor reported. 300 ships, fully armed, fully crewed. They will depart in 1 month. Make it 2 weeks, Bren ordered. We have wasted enough time. These humans must be crushed before their rebellion spreads. Back on Earth, Admiral Tejo received the intelligence report with calm acceptance. The enemy was coming faster than expected. It did not matter. Humanity would be ready. He stood before a gathering of his senior officers in the war room of Horizon Station. The holographic display showed the solar system, with every defense marked, every ship positioned, every trap laid. They will arrive through the standard approach vector, Tejo said, pointing to a region of space beyond Neptune. They expect to find a primitive fleet waiting to be destroyed. Instead, they will find the gates of hell. General Do-hyun stepped forward. Our ground forces are ready. If any enemy troops reach Earth, they will face 10 million soldiers and a civilian population that refuses to surrender. Let us hope it does not come to that, President Mireille said from her position at the head of the table. But if it does, every man, woman, and child on Earth knows what is at stake. We fight together, or we die together. Lieutenant Hana, attending the meeting as Commander Sunwoo's representative, spoke up. The crews are ready, Admiral. We have trained for this. We have prepared for this. Give us the order, and we will make them regret ever coming to our system. Tejo looked around the room at the faces of humanity's defenders. Scientists and soldiers, politicians and pilots, old veterans and young recruits. They came from every nation, every culture, every background. But in this moment, they were one people. The Union has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, Tejo said quietly. They have never lost a war. They have never been challenged by a species that refused to break. They think we are weak because we are small. They think we are primitive because we are young. He straightened his uniform and looked directly at the display showing Earth, blue and beautiful against the black of space. Let us teach them what humanity truly is. The Union fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel like a wave of steel and fire. 300 capital ships, each one larger than any vessel humanity had ever built, arranged themselves in perfect formation beyond the orbit of Neptune. Their shields glowed with energy, their weapons charged with power that could crack moons. Fleet Admiral Thorne stood on the bridge of his flagship. The Conqueror. He was Drava, a species of warriors, but he had served the Union faithfully for 50 years. He had crushed rebellions on a dozen worlds. He had never failed a mission. This assignment, he believed, would be the easiest of his career. Scan the system, Thorne ordered. Find their fleet. The sensor officer, a young Valen, worked his console. Admiral, I am detecting approximately 200 human ships near the 4th planet. They appear to be waiting for us. Thorne smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. 200 against 300. They are brave. I will give them that. Brave and stupid. He activated the communication system and broadcast his message on all frequencies. People of Earth, your resistance ends today. You have one final opportunity to surrender. Disable your weapons. Present your leaders for judgment, and your species will be allowed to survive as servants of the Union. Refuse, and we will destroy everything you have built. The response came quickly. Admiral Park Tejo's face appeared on the screen, calm and hard as stone. Admiral Thorne, thank you for coming such a long way to visit us. I am afraid we must decline your generous offer. But please, come closer. We have prepared a welcome for you. The transmission ended. Thorne felt a flicker of annoyance. These humans did not understand their position. They were insects facing a giant. All ships, advance. Standard attack formation. We will end this quickly. The Union fleet began to move, a wall of warships pushing toward the inner solar system. They passed the orbit of Neptune without incident. They passed Uranus. They approached the asteroid belt that circled between Mars and Jupiter. And then, the universe exploded. The first wave of mines detonated in perfect sequence. They had been hidden in the debris field, invisible to Union sensors, waiting for this moment. 50 ships were hit, in the first second. Shields flickered and failed. Hulls cracked open. The perfect formation became chaos. "Report!" Thorne shouted, gripping his command chair as his ship shook from a nearby explosion. "Minefield, Admiral. Thousands of devices. We are losing ships. Push through. All ships, maximum speed. Get through the field." The Union fleet accelerated, trying to escape the trap. But the mines were not the only danger. From behind Saturn's rings, where they had been hiding for days, the human fleet emerged. 200 Eclipse-class destroyers came screaming out of the darkness. They were smaller than Union ships, faster and more agile. And they carried weapons the Union had never faced in full-scale warfare. Railguns. The first volley hit the Union fleet like the hammer of an angry god. Metal projectiles, accelerated to incredible speed, punched through shields that were designed to stop energy weapons. A Union cruiser, hit by 12 rounds in rapid succession, broke apart like glass struck by a stone, on the bridge of the Defiance. Commander Lee Sunwoo watched his tactical display with fierce concentration. "Hana, target their carrier group. Disable their launch bays." Lieutenant Hana Bay worked her console with practiced speed. Firing, solution locked. Weapons free. The Defiance shuddered as its railguns fired. Across the fleet, 200 ships did the same. The Union carriers, massive vessels designed to deploy thousands of fighter craft, were hit before they could launch. One carrier exploded completely. 2 others drifted out of formation, their engines dead. Admiral Thorne stared at his display in disbelief. 20 minutes into the battle, and he had already lost 50 ships. The humans were not fighting like any species he had encountered. They were not forming lines. They were not engaging in honorable combat. They were attacking like wild animals, striking from every direction, using the debris of destroyed ships as cover. "Admiral," his sensor officer called out, voice shaking. "New contacts, thousands of them, coming from the human carriers." The Tangent-class carriers had held back from the main engagement. Now they released their cargo, 10,000 drones per carrier, 50,000 total. Swarmed toward the Union fleet, like a cloud of metal insects. Each drone was small, barely larger than a human, but they carried explosives and were programmed to find weak points in enemy ships. The drones hit the Union fleet like a storm. They crawled over hulls, finding gaps in armor, detonating against weapon systems and engine pods. Union ships that had survived the railgun assault now found themselves being eaten alive by thousands of tiny attackers. "Fall back," Thorne ordered, finally understanding the depth of his mistake. "All ships, fall back to the outer system." But the humans were not finished. Admiral Tejo had positioned his fleet perfectly. As the Union tried to retreat, they found the human ships blocking their escape. The destroyers that had seemed scattered were actually forming a net, trapping the enemy fleet against the debris field. "This is Tejo to all ships," the Admiral broadcast. "No mercy. They came to enslave us. Show them what happens to those who threaten humanity." The next 3 hours were a massacre. Union ships, trapped and disorganized, were destroyed one by one. The Drava warriors, the best soldiers in the galaxy, died in ships that were being torn apart around them. The Valen commanders, who had never known defeat, watched in horror as their ancient fleet was reduced to wreckage. On the Defiance, Commander Sunwoo finally allowed himself to breathe. "Status report." Hana checked her console. "Enemy fleet is destroyed or disabled. 142 confirmed kills. The remaining ships are surrendering or fleeing. Our losses: 63 ships destroyed, 22 damaged but recoverable, 12,000 personnel dead or missing." Sunwoo closed his eyes. 12,000 lives. It was a victory, but it came with a heavy price. Admiral Thorne's flagship, the Conqueror, drifted in space with its engines dead. Human Marines were boarding it now, fighting through the corridors to reach the bridge. Thorn watched his crew fall one by one, these soft-looking humans fighting with a ferocity that shocked him. When the bridge doors finally opened, Thorn found himself facing a young human woman in combat armor. Lieutenant Hannah Bay, her face covered in blood and dirt, pointed her weapon at his head. "Admiral Thorn," she said, her voice steady. "You are now a prisoner of United Earth. Your war is over." Thorn looked at this small creature who had helped defeat the mightiest fleet in the galaxy. "How?" he whispered. "How did you do this?" Hannah did not smile. "You forgot something important. We have been fighting each other for 5,000 years. War is in our blood. We are very, very good at it." As the Admiral was led away in restraints, a message was broadcast across the galaxy. The Union fleet had been defeated. Humanity had won. The impossible had happened, and the galaxy would never be the same. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. On 1,000 worlds, in 1,000,000 cities, beings of every shape and size heard the same unbelievable report. The Galactic Union, the most powerful force in known space, had been defeated in battle. Their fleet was destroyed. Their admiral was captured. And the species that had done this was one they had never taken seriously. Humanity had won. On Seraph Prime, the High Council chamber was silent for the first time in 10,000 years. The great symbols on the walls, representing every species that had submitted to Union rule, seemed to mock the counselors who sat beneath them. Everything they had built, everything they believed, had been shaken to its foundation. Counselor Bren sat in his chair like a broken statue. His webbed hands trembled. His ancient eyes stared at nothing. 300 ships, he whispered. The greatest fleet we have assembled in 1,000 years. Gone. High Emissary Rova, who had been stripped of her rank after the failed negotiation, stood before the council once more. She had been right. The humans were different, and now, perhaps, it was too late. What do we do? A younger counselor asked. Do we send another fleet? Do we surrender? Warlord Keth rose from his seat. The Drava warrior looked different now. The defeat of the Union had awakened something in him, something that had been sleeping for 50 years. We do nothing, he said. The age of Union dominance is over. The humans have shown the galaxy that we can be beaten. Other species will rise now. Other rebellions will begin. Then we must crush them all, Bren said. But his voice held no conviction. With what? Keth replied. Our fleet is gone. Our reputation is destroyed. We are no longer the masters of the galaxy. We are just another power among many. He walked toward the door, pausing to look back at the counselors who had ruled his people for generations. I am returning to my homeworld. The Drava will chart their own course from now on. I suggest you do the same. He left the chamber, and with him went the last pretense of Union unity. On Earth, the victory was celebrated with tears and joy. In every city, people gathered to honor the fallen and praise the living. President Choi Mirai declared a day of remembrance for the 12,000 who had died defending humanity's freedom. Their names were carved into a great monument that rose from the ruins of the old United Nations building. A tower of black stone that would stand for 1,000 years. Admiral Park Tae-ho refused all interviews and celebrations. He spent the days after the battle visiting hospitals where wounded soldiers recovered, shaking hands and speaking quiet words of thanks. When reporters asked him about his feelings, he simply said, "We did what had to be done. Nothing more." But the work was not finished. Dr. Yuna Kang knew that winning one battle did not mean winning the war. The Union would recover. They would rebuild. If humanity wanted permanent peace, they needed to change the galaxy itself. She called a meeting on Horizon Station, inviting representatives from every species that had helped humanity during the crisis. The Veen came, their High Mother traveling personally for the first time in decades. The Moth Collective sent their senior scientists. The Drava rebels came in force, no longer needing to hide, and others came too. Species who had watched the battle from afar and decided that humanity deserved their support. You have done something remarkable, the Van High Mother said to Yuna. You have shown that the Union can fall, but what will you build in its place? Yuna looked around the room at the strange faces and stranger bodies gathered together. We propose something new. Not an empire, not a union that demands obedience, but an alliance of free peoples, each governing themselves, each respecting the others. We call it the Free Worlds Compact. She projected a document into the air, written in a dozen languages. Any species can join. Any species can leave. We promise only 3 things: mutual defense against aggression, free trade between members, and absolute respect for each other's independence. No governors, no councils telling us how to live, just free peoples working together by choice. The Drava rebel commander, a scarred warrior named Kel, studied the document. And if the Union attacks one of us, then they attack all of us, Yuna replied. That is the promise. An injury to one is an injury to all. General Kim Do-hyun stepped forward. We are already rebuilding our fleet. Stronger than before, better armed, and we are willing to share our technology with any species that joins the compact. Our weapons, our tactics, everything we have learned. The room fell into discussion. Some species were eager to join, others were cautious, but none of them dismissed the idea. For the first time in their history, they had a real choice. They could remain under Union influence, or they could join something new, something built on freedom rather than fear. 1 week later, the Free Worlds Compact was signed by 12 species. Within a month, that number had grown to 30. Within a year, half the galaxy had either joined or declared neutrality. The Union, weakened and divided, could do nothing but watch as their power slipped away. President Mireille addressed the galaxy in a broadcast that reached every world, every station, every ship in known space. She stood before the monument to the fallen, the names of 12,000 heroes carved behind her. We did not choose this war, she said. We asked only to be left alone, to live our lives in peace. But when we were threatened, when our freedom was demanded as the price of survival, we chose to fight. She paused, looking directly into the camera. To the Galactic Union, we offer peace, true peace, between equals. We do not seek revenge. We do not seek conquest. We want only what every thinking being deserves: the right to determine our own future. Her voice hardened. But let me be clear. If you come for us again, if you threaten our people or our friends, we will not simply defend. We will come for you. And we will not stop until the galaxy understands a simple truth. Freedom is not given by the powerful to the weak. Freedom is taken. It is earned. It is held by those willing to pay any price to keep it. Far away, on a small space station orbiting a cold moon, a young Neth child watched the broadcast with her mother. She was barely 10 cycles old, too young to understand politics or war, but she understood that something important was happening. Mother, she asked, what are humans? Her mother, who had lived under Union rule her entire life, thought carefully before answering. She remembered the stories she had heard as a child. Stories of a galaxy where species were free, where no one bowed to ancient powers, where the future was open and bright. Those had just been stories. Until now, humans, her mother said softly, are the ones who reminded us what courage looks like. They are the ones who said no when everyone else said yes. They are the ones who taught the galaxy that even the smallest voice can change everything. The child thought about this for a moment. Then she smiled. I like humans, she said. Her mother smiled back. So do I, little one. So do I. In the years that followed, humanity continued to grow. Their ships traveled to distant stars. Their diplomats built friendships with species they had never imagined. Their scientists shared discoveries that improved lives across the galaxy. They made mistakes, as all species do, but they learned from them, and whenever a new species was discovered, whenever a young civilization took its first steps into the void, they would eventually hear the story. The story of a small blue planet that refused to kneel. The story of a species that looked at impossible odds and decided to fight anyway. The story of a word that changed the galaxy. No, that simple word, spoken by Admiral Park Tae-ho in a conference room on Horizon Station, had started a revolution. It had brought down an empire. It had freed billions of beings from fear and oppression. It had shown the universe what humanity truly was. Not perfect, not powerful, not ancient or wise, just stubborn enough, brave enough, and crazy enough to believe that freedom was worth any price. And in the end, that was enough.